Hi, I thought I'd try something different this time. I want to make 5 Heraldic Clarion steampunk door horns. So I thought I'd just make another video, but this time talk through it, just explain things I'm showing. This is the laser cutter cutting out 3mm ply, the bases for 2 of the Clarions. This is cutting up a couple of the end panels out of pine on the wonderful bandsaw. Such a versatile tool. This isn't that good a quality one, but it really has worked very well over the years. And then just sanding the sides to get them nice and smooth where I'd cut them on the belt sander. Again, not a very good quality belt sander, but it's brilliant. A wonderful jig. This simple jig allows me to accurately drill the screw holes, the pilot screw holes in each corner. And then here we are, we're putting in the little screws. These are the ones from the back, so they're posi drive. Obviously, any screws you see from the front must be brass, and they can't be cross posi drive, because all in the old days, in Victorian times, the only screws they had were slotted ones. Here's the 5 backs and the end panels. They're not glued, they're just screwed, so I can take them apart afterwards. Here's a handy little bottle. Some of you might notice this from the Nemnet Thrubwell kit. Very handy for dispensing PVA. I think we're the best PVA. So sticking on the side panels, and then one of the wonderful rubber bands just to hold it all in place. Could use clamps, but why overcomplicate things when a rubber band is perfect? Now, where the cable entry is, it's going to have a little bit of plumbing, a few brass and copper fittings, so I need to reinforce the front panel around where this copper pipe is going to attach. So it's simply just another couple of plates. These have got slightly smaller holes in because I want to screw a little ornate brass plaque around them, again to provide extra support. This is the battery clip holder that just fits inside the back, and this just fits into the back bit. Nice thing is that these are cut out of that slot that you can see in the back panel where the battery can be inserted. I've got board with PVA, so we're back to super glue. This is a little decorative ring that goes around the what would you call it, the air vent, to allow air to be drawn in to blow the horn. That's right, I suppose. Got to be careful, because if PVA or any glue spreads too far, it stops the wood stain from covering the wood properly. So using a little bit of super glue is good. This is marking out, because this is a design adapted from the Nemnet Thrubwell. In order to get the horn in the right place, the air horn with this design, one of the fittings needed to be a little bit high. Tried all sorts of things, but it was far the easiest way to do it. And again, when you're making 5, you just get a jig set up, really simple jig, and away you go. This is cutting the air tube, I suppose you'd call it. So rather than having other bits connected the horn to the little air pump, this design uses a piece of wood, just as lots of cuckoo mechanisms do in cuckoo clocks. Sanding the ends, another nice little bit of pine. Again, a simple jig made out of 2 pieces of wood and some G-clamps. Just speeds things up so much. There's the air pump, that just pushes into that little hole, which I remember to drill before I stuck it all together. Plenty of glue, because I want an airtight seal around this. And the good thing about using this piece of wood is that it supports the air pump and also provides a link to the air horn. There we are. The glue's dry, so undo. Because I needed an airtight seal, I did use G-clamps on these ones. So everything's glued. Now it's time to gently, just loosely fit on the front panels. It's just useful to have them fitted on lightly like this, so that when I stain the wood, everything stays together and doesn't go everywhere. This is wood dye, they call it now, to save the planet. It used to be wood stain that contained all sorts of noxious chemicals and stunk. This is wood dye, which is water based, which is really handy because you can use it indoors without making a horrible smell. and it does dry pretty quickly. It's not quite as dark as the original wood stain, but wood dye is pretty good. And here's some water-based varnish, satin varnish, and again a sort of dark oak colour to try and get back to as dark a finish as I can without spending too long on each one. So this varnishes it, protects it, gives it a nice sheen, and also makes it a little bit darker. It's a very nice brush I acquired from one of the kids. Lovely. They're only going to spoil it anyway. Right, now for a bit of tessellation. I want to cut out lots more of these brackets that are going to support the cable. I've done a few, but now I want to, I think it was about 20 I wanted to do. So I'm just moving the different parts over. Each little cable clip has a base panel and then a little lozenge shaped part. They look like that. Let's put them onto the laser cutter computer, which is very old, so I haven't connected to the internet, hence the fact I'm using pen drives. Then it's getting the focus lined up. You have to very accurately focus laser cutters, otherwise they won't cut properly at all. The beam has to be perfectly focused on the top of the material. Very satisfying. In the original one that I made, that I designed these for, I'd use these little copper rivets that are smaller. I then subsequently ordered bigger ones because the little copper pipe rings needed bigger ones, and of course they don't fit. So this is why sort of continual development, research development and evaluation is so important. So I'm just going to, now I've glued them together, I'm just going to drill them out to accept the new version of the rivets. And then stain them as well. And myself, obviously. And then to correct them, which is useful, rather than trying to remember to do it at a later date. While the stain or the dye was drying, I thought I'd just quickly enlarge all the holes ready for future ones. Otherwise I forget, and then I have to do it all over again and again and again. Lovely tools on 2D design, really help you to quickly draw circles, line them up properly, and then delete just little bits and pieces that you don't want anymore. And I think I learnt at college using a huge piece of tracing paper and a pencil. This is just incredible what CAD allows you to do. Really appreciate it. I think once you've learned how to do engineering drawing the old way, you really do appreciate CAD. So much easier and quicker. You still have to have a good imagination and knowledge, but you make a mistake and you just delete it. This is cutting out the ornate, what's going to be brass extrusions. I tried looking it up, I can't remember. It's something like the word extrusion. Funny little plates that go around where the copper is going to go into the clarions. You can see the laser was set on a lower setting to engrave the circle, and that's cutting through the 5mm acrylic. Now I need to cut some red fabric to go behind the air filter. If I hadn't got any red felt, the kids had used it all up, so luckily my wife had a pencil case she'd made, which I did, I hastened to add, have permission to cut to pieces to get enough. And the laser cutter really does cut felt very well. It slightly melts the edges, ever so slightly, so it's not fluffy or anything. It can cut it very nicely. And now, finally, or not finally, but somewhere or other, the engraved sign. This is going to be engraved from proper engraving laminate that's got a very thin layer of white acrylic over a black base. So you can cut right through it, and as you can see, the black lines are going to cut right through it, but before it's cut out, the red lines are going to engrave it. The laser can engrave. It scans backwards and forwards, a bit like building up a television picture, but that takes ages. It does give a very good result, but it does take a long time. I discovered that by drawing lots and lots of lines within each letter, 0.1 millimeters apart, and then having a low laser power, it's so much quicker, and the results are fine. They look absolutely perfect. This is interesting. For the original horns that I was using, they had mould lines either side. They didn't show very much, but because of where the horn is with the Clarion, I needed to try and reduce the little lines a bit more, and they're a bit fluffy. I suddenly remembered I'd seen a How It's Made video, and they're making kids' toys out of a similar plastic, like cars and things, and they used a blowtorch. So I thought it was worth a try, and other than taking all the hair off my thumb, it worked really well. It didn't melt the plastic. There we are, a hair-free thumb. I wouldn't recommend it as a way of defibrillation, or whatever you call it, something or other. And then spraying up the horns, and with the melted mould lines, they really do look brilliant. There are the little brass extrusions, or whatever. Everything gets 2 coats of paint, just because it really does make it much tougher and covers anything underneath. Then varnishing the cable clips, then drilling the hole, and if you imagine, this is where the air is going to get into the horn. So it's drilling down to meet up with that original hole I drilled. Lovely little glue dispenser again, and fitting the red fabric or the red felt discs into shape. So I realised very early on with one of the first inventions that having little red details here and there really do bring a lot to the design. They make it look even more attractive. Second coat. Then one of the, not annoying, but one of the a little bit frustrating, time-consuming things is once you get an engraving, there's usually soot over the front, so you need to use some isopropyl alcohol, which smells lovely. It's the stuff that used to be on tape head cleaners, just to clean off all the soot. And this time there's a bit of super glue just to make sure it doesn't come loose, and 2 little brass pins that just go into laser cut holes, small holes, just to hold it in place. And here's the first 5 so far. Thanks very much for watching. Remember, you can purchase your very own Heraldic Clarion from my website at steamhead.co.uk. You can also see all my other inventions there as well. Thanks again. Bye.